you load it up big, you better clear the rest. The solvent list takes away all my stress. Life's been feeling like kind of a mess. I'll never let a hater make me think less, because everything before this was just a test.
Bagsy Chronicles.
I'm riding, all the homies with me.
Hello, welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. I am your host, Uncle Dig, and as always, it has been too long. This is your sonic shelter from the surreptitiously sober. So grip it and rip it, friend, and maybe come hungry. I have a wonderful, if a bit unorthodox episode for you today. Today's guest isn't a weed person necessarily, but a pizza man. Today, I have a wonderful conversation with Tony from Tony's Italian Kitchen in Central Point, Oregon. Go try his full Italian menu and pizza in between the Table Rocks in Central Point, Oregon. He is under the pizza flag by the Old Tuvel Lounge. And unlike so many things I talk about on this show, you can enjoy it with the whole family. But before all that, I bet you're wondering what's going on with my garden. Uncle Dig's garden update. Hello, it is March 30th, 2025, and we are still in the eternal sunshine of my LED grow lights, so gardening zone isn't yet a factor. It will be time to make my selections and plant my first outdoor plants soon, but not quite yet. Not least of all because I have to harvest at least one full indoor tent before I can plant peppers or photo period cannabis that I will be putting outdoors. I also have one light with a broken dimmer that I can't germinate seeds under. So I have some rearranging and resetting to do in my studio grow before I start the 2025 outdoor. So, as always, a little bit behind. But before I can start the outdoor grow or even think about it, I still have this indoor grow in full swing. I'll start with the oldest plants first. All of the plants are feminized autoflowers grown in organic soil and dry amendments with the following liquid additives added. SLF 100, which is an enzyme, liquid bone meal, which is what it sounds like and provides calcium, and K-Humate from Bokashi Earthworks in flower. The K-Humate was provided to me free of charge. Thanks, Bokashi Earthworks. I have two plants at 71 days in my 2.5 by 2.5 foot tent. Both plants are from Multiverse Genetics, which is Multiverse Beans in-house seed lines. I appreciate Paul from Multiverse giving me these beans. The Starfruits is a smaller plant and is doing well. I was pleasantly surprised to see that this plant started to exhibit a faint purple hue. At 71 days, I could pull her, but I like 10 to 30% amber trichomes on my plants, and she just isn't quite there yet. She has a little more to go. The Titan 9 is a very large plant and would have done well to have the tent to itself. It is exceeding my expectations as far as size, and I look forward to a possible record-setting harvest. If not my overall autoflower record, definitely my record for these smaller lights I have in my studio. The SF4000 in my garage definitely outperforms these lights in general, but maybe that is due to other factors other than light performance. I'm not sure. One problem I am running into as I become more experienced growing autoflowers is that I need to increase the space I provide them to grow in. I've been cramming two plants in 2 by 2 foot spaces, and while fine initially, as my plant size increases, I will most likely only be able to grow one plant per 2 by 2 foot space. This is a good problem to have as far as I'm concerned, and an adjustment I will be making next winter. My per plant yield will not be what it could have been this indoor run because the plants are kind of pressed up against each other. I attribute a lot of this increased size to better watering practices, a heavier and more complete feeding regime, along with better environmental regulation, and I believe cultivar selection plays a part as well, although I'm not sure how big a part. In my smaller 2x2, I have a Blue Eyes White Dragon from Gemseeker Genetics. It is at 61 days and doing quite well. One issue I had in this tent is that the tent is too short, and the light dimmer went out. I was experimenting with a 24-hour light cycle in this tent, but had to switch to 18.6 to ease up the stress on the plant from it being too hot at the top of the tent. Some of my tops on this plant did get a little bleached. It will be interesting to see if these particular tops smoke differently than the fully colored tops toward the bottom of the plant. In my garage 4x4, I have 6 plants. They are on a 24-hour light cycle. This is my first time running autos without any dark periods. So far, they are behaving normally. Maybe the anvil is a little slow to stretch, but I don't remember her stretch being particularly remarkable the last time I grew her. She is the oldest plant in the tent at 38 days. She hasn't turned very purple yet. She is a deep shade of forest green. The last plant of anvil I grew didn't turn purple until deep into flowers, so we will see how this one goes. Ever since I ran something from Gemseeker Genetics, I try to run something from his line in every autoflower run I do. In this run, I have 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon and 1 Planetary Gas, both at 34 days. They have both started their early flower stretch. Big thanks to Cavemane from Gemseeker Genetics for these beans. He sent me a big envelope full like 2 years ago, so even though I'm out of Planetary Gas beans, there are more beans from his line to go through yet. There isn't any candy gas like this I've grown, a personal favorite breeder for sure. I am also running 2 Titan 9 plants from Multiverse in the 4x4 as well out in the garage. They are 33 days old and are also the tallest. When Paul said the Titan 9 helped with his migraines, I knew it was going straight to the top of the list of shit to try. I hope the flavor hits like the smell does. It might be a cheeser. I am excited. Both myself and my silent partner will benefit from a medicinal plant that touches the head. The youngest plant I have in the current run is the Gorilla Cookies from 420 Fast Buds. She is doing fine. She was hungry at first, but seems happier now. This is one of Fast Bud's flagships, apparently, so I am looking forward to seeing how she performs. Well, that's it for my garden update. If you like weeds so much, why don't you grow it?
Nice night.
Mm-hmm. Pizza Dude's got 30 seconds.
Everyone join me in welcome to the Bagseat Chronicles. Tony. Tony is the chef and proprietor of Tony's Italian Kitchen, located at 9329 Table Rock Road in Central Point, Oregon. The best Italian food in Southern Oregon comes off of this truck.
Rock and roll. Thank you, Diggs. Appreciate you inviting me to the show.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I like to have all kinds of different people on. Tell us a little bit about the food truck and how you came to start your business in Southern Oregon.
So, yes, we are trying to pioneer something differently. When I say we, couldn't really do it without my family. Include my wife, Sarah, my dad, my mom, my sister, our pets, and really the people in our community, such as you, Uncle Diggs, Marley, and a couple others that are behind the scenes that have really allowed us to continue to grow. We got started due to my family's background, specifically on my dad's side, in the restaurant industry. My dad, from ever since I was able to walk, had restaurants. So I got to learn a lot about food, staff, and really what it takes to be able to run an establishment, which growing up as a kid, my parents did everything they could to teach us, but also, I guess, in a sense, keep us away from it, because in order to be able to run a food and beverage product, in my opinion, you have to be married to it. And being married is a complete additional commitment to at least someone like myself who is married. That being said, my family and multi-generations down come from cooks. My great Nonna Francesca, that's actually something that's known on our menu, which is her lasagna. That recipe has been handed down to her from her great-grandparents and so forth. So you could say there's a lot of history with food and cuisine. So growing up, that was our summer job. On the weekends, that was our job. And it was if we really wanted to be able to go on trips and or purchase anything. there was our jobs
Yeah.
at the restaurant. So yeah, I guess you could say it started from my adolescence.
Yeah. My dad's a small business owner too, and I don't know that he necessarily encouraged us to follow in his footsteps either.
And and that's the thing. It's really interesting, especially in our relationship, because someone like my dad, he's at times on the truck. So
Right, yeah.
he for many years, I guess you could say, wanted to walk away from the commercial or the professional side of things when it comes to Italian cuisine. Always for the holidays, after he semi-retired, you could say, he would still prepare meals. But ultimately, when I got back into the industry, you could say, or the family did, he was right there by my side.
Right, yeah.
So that's something, or Uncle Diggs for that matter, is something that I'm really, I want to say, I know it's not part of your question, but wanted to say thank you. When I do say community, this truck is something it's fueled by that way. Dutch Brothers will have a slogan that says, powered by Dutch. And we're all fans of Dutch. And thank you for getting us through at times when we needed that extra caffeine run.
Oh, yeah.
And that kick. And so we want to say that we're powered by the community, because that's really what fuels us. And want to say thank you, Uncle Diggs, and to the other better half as well, who's always there to be by your side. And like I said, it's a family, and thank you. Thank you, Uncle Diggs.
Yeah. We're happy to support you and your truck and your family as your business grows and stuff. I like sometimes when I come and get some pizza, I like seeing locals come by and they're like, oh, this guy. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my buddy Tony. And he's like, oh, I hear this land's for sale. Who owns it? I'm like, he does. And they look around and like, who? I'm like, the guy on the truck. He'd be the guy to talk to. And they're like, oh, and then they don't say shit. So it's always real funny.
And it's really interesting because on the topic of this piece of property, it's unique. I mean, growing up as a kid, I remember seeing orchards. There's nothing really that's been developed out there. And yes, ever since being there on the truck, we've had offers and we've had people wanting to know, what our intentions, so forth are, and et cetera. But I ultimately tell them that there's nothing for sale.
No.
Unless they're interested in food and that's the only thing that's for sale, that's on my menu. No, this is something that I wanted to be able to have my wife and my family and my friends to be able to see it grow, but also be a part of.
Well, what's really cool about this piece of property, and what's really neat about this, is like usually when I have people on the Bagseat Chronicles, we don't talk about exactly where their property is. They don't want you to know where their property is. I don't want you to know where I'm at, but Tony does want you to know where he's at because he wants you to come buy him food. So if anyone is local to the Rogue Valley, there's a little spit of property right in front of the Tuvel Lounge, going out to Sam's Valley, literally in between the two Table Rocks, next to Orchard. And I think everyone thought that Tuvel Lounge owned it because they put some signs out on it, but they didn't. And Tony just recently snatched it up, and I think everybody is having a bit of FOMO. Like they've like, oh dang it, I was always gonna snag in and grab that one day, and they never did, and they never will now.
That's exactly right. And I'll be honest. I even, I didn't assume or think or ever have an idea that particular property was for sale.
Right.
I didn't. I did see a sign a couple of years back that said for sale, but I was under the impression it was the lounge, and that those two pieces of property, which is where I'm located on, it's directly across from the lounge that has a public access road that's in between us. But we all thought, and most people in the area thought, it was one whole piece of property. And, circle back to again, my dad. He had asked me one day, hey, I know you need a place for your truck. That's something that you've been talking about ever since building your truck before you even opened, was finding a set location where you can put some roots down, have a set location, have people know that they can count on you for their food when they're craving it, but in a place as well that you can really try to do something different, do something that hasn't really been done before amongst other trucks, at least in this general area. And so he asked, "Did you call?" And I was like, What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Yeah, we've been talking about it, and you said that you're going to make this call, and it's been a couple of days now. You made the call." And I clicked. I was like, "Okay, yes, you're referring to the piece of property that we've driven by for years now that has a for sale sign."
Right.
And I said, "Yeah, I called," and I didn't, and he knew I didn't. And he goes,
God damn
He
it.
goes, "What's the number?" And so right then and there, we pull over on the side of the road, and yeah, we called the number, and unfortunately, the gentleman didn't answer at the time, who's representing the property. But and he was at a later date, he was able to call us back. I think it might have been maybe later that evening. And when we called, I left a message, but I left my dad's phone number. Only reason why is because being on the truck, there's times that I miss people's calls or messages, and and at that time driving this truck from location to location, that was something that really took a toll on me every day. On top of course, prepping, cooking food, and of trying to sell the food that took me
Right,
a
yeah.
journey just to get to the location to sell. And so, with that being said, a gentleman called that night, and we got on the phone, and it turned out that piece of property was separate from Tuville Lounge, and we immediately made a meet with them that next day, and presented an offer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that really summarizes in a quick snitch instance, excuse me, on us taking the first step of purchase. Was not easy. Took shoestrings that I still don't have on my shoes to be able to make this happen. But it's something that I do see. My former boss, Mr. Brian Obie, he always talked about creating a environment that would cause a experience for that individual to reflect back at a later date. And he always wanted to be able to create something through his vision on something that he would foresee people's anticipations of their needs. And he helped develop a couple different areas here in the US now that wouldn't have a luxury boutique, wouldn't have entertainment, wouldn't be able to have places where local jobs were created by this particular individual. But he always talked about vision and seeing things in the future and seeing things that could be developed with, grit, and at the end of the day, looking back with community support. And that's why I always circle back to community. And we want to do something that's different. And as you mentioned, Uncle Diggs, this particular location, the truck's parked on soil that is some of the best in the nation. You could put a cannabis plant in the ground. You could put, a Roma tomato.
Well,
Doesn't matter. It's gonna
when
grow.
you're old and you decide to retire from the food truck business, you just roll the truck off and rent it as agricultural land every year and make a little tidy profit doing that and live off of that.
You know what? That's exactly right. Living off the land, and that's what many generations. I'd say the natives did it. They were farmers, and that land is rich in soil, and I feel that area has a positive energy between the location of the Rogue River, the Table Rock Mountains, and so forth, and that's why it's something that.
This is letting me know that I need to get a microphone stand.
Yeah, well,
No, that's okay. This is I'm still learning. This is only the second in-person guest I've had.
yes. Well, and that's why, for me today, this is also helping me have a better idea of what to think about. Because as I'm talking to you, Uncle Diggs, I'm also thinking about, various things on the truck that I see already looking forward to. Like, for example, and we've discussed this already, a community garden,
Oh yeah.
and that's something that Uncle Dig, I think between you and, my family, we could do something like that. That's really special. I've had offers from a local high school of students that are already doing growing on their school grounds of romaine and other types of herbs and spices. And so they said, starting here this March, so a couple weeks away, that they're going to present to me their portfolio of everything that they're growing. And so I want to create a partnership with the local high school.
To buy produce?
Yes.
That's
specifically,
awesome. Yeah.
yes. We're already working with a couple different local farmers already, but these kids are going to be our future farmers. They are going to be who's going to be feeding our kids.
Right.
So I want to be able to help contribute and support. And that was something that when I was going to school here locally wasn't a program that at least I was informed about, but
Right.
it sounds like it's currently happening now.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I found out about the horticulture department at our high school by like walking around the backside of the school and realizing there was a greenhouse one day. No one told me about it. I didn't know how you got into it. It was like something you kind of either knew about or didn't, and it was where all the crunchy science kids went. See, I didn't realize that there were like crunchy science kids when I was a kid. I thought all the crunchy kids were art kids, but there's crunchy science kids, and they're in horticulture.
You know, it's interesting that you said that too, Uncle Diggs, because at my high school, there was a greenhouse on the school grounds, but it was part of our main school building,
Oh, okay.
and it was on the south side of the building. So unless you walked or had classes on that department side of the school, you wouldn't really see it. And when I went to school there, I was more on the studying more on the focus with history, mathematics. Those were some of my academic strengths, and so it turned out that, as you mentioned, that was more of the science side of things. Which, don't get me wrong, I find interesting, but I like to be able to take a step back and analyze and move forward with my way of thinking. And so it really wasn't until my senior year I was able to step foot into this building. And it was even for a horticulture class. I went to a small Catholic private school, and so it turned out to be a religion course I had to take, and there was no office space, so we had to take it in to
in the greenhouse.
So it was really cool. It was in the wintertime, so the lights were on when we were there first thing in the morning, and you know, LED technology back then was still foreign. It was more of the high pressure sodium. And, and old school lighting. So you'd hear it, you know, tick, and that's exactly right. And our teacher was just as dull as that sound. And so, yeah, it wasn't my favorite class. Let's say that. But I was able to pass through it and make it happen. But that, you know, will be my only experience in a greenhouse.
Oh yeah,
when it comes to academics.
I've got some of the coolest greenhouses I've gotten to see so far in Oregon have been on the Rogue Valley Farm Tour. When we are able to go on it, we'll end up going on a couple different farm tours, and every once in a while, someone will have their greenhouse opened up, and they'll have like, I saw this guy had olive trees, and ever since then, I've been thinking like I'd really like to. Now it'll be like a lifelong project.
Yes,
like it'll be a 25-year long project. So when that cherry, I'll show you later. There's a cherry tree in my backyard.
Okay, yeah.
And everyone keeps telling me it's going to die every year, and it still just keeps going. But my plan is when the cherry tree does eventually die,
sure,
I'm going to get rid of that and then put a greenhouse over there, and then maybe try to like first start with a hoop house and try to establish some olive trees.
Oh, there you go.
Because of climate change, there are a lot of bad things about climate change, but one of the good things about climate change is we're turning into a true Mediterranean climate where certain kinds of olives can be grown. So apparently they have about a 1 out of every 3 success rate getting established here overwintering. So like if I started 3, I might be able to keep 1. Wow. So like in theory, and that's all I'd need, because I'd have enough olives to pickle. I'd have olives for days.
Absolutely.
It'd be a problem how many olives I have after one tree.
You'll have more than just a personal stash.
But that's like the food thing, the weird specialty food thing that I have a fantasy of, like, because I've got a blank area out in the front of my property that could be developed.
It's perfect.
But I have a lot to do, and I also like the idea of telling people to come park their trailers when they come visit. And if I put olive trees out there, no one could park their trailers out there anymore, or it'd be more challenging.
You know, I do see the convenient space, especially since this morning I was able to pull right in.
Oh yeah,
right off the street. But as you mentioned, there is no obstructions. It's southward facing. You'd be able to really grow anything and everything right there. And I don't know, it may be neat to be able to do something where you have a greenhouse, but you're able to limit that space.
yeah.
Where, I mean, you're cutting it close if needing extra space. But I don't know. I mean, a place where, say, certain times of the year you could have a door open. And when I lived in Eugene, there was a community garden.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, a place where, once again, circle back to community, and especially living out here in Enos, it might be something that's fun to invite your local neighbors to help contribute as well, and maybe helping donate local resources.
Maybe when my local neighbors stop painting my fence. I've turned it into turned it into an art project, so I've just painted over it. But yeah, it's a problem. The graffiti around here is out of control. I enjoy it a little bit because I always say commit like petty crime, bring your property values down. Fight the system, fight the banks. But that's just me. Other people get really mad.
At this point, I've had my opinion.
I'm being silly.
But you know what? Kids could be kids, and I mean, they could be doing worse things.
Oh yeah,
I will say that. But there has to be a line drawn. Has to be. At least being a business owner, I want to be able to have a welcoming, clean storefront, as well as I'm sure you wanting to have your studio be located at a place that is safe and clean.
Yeah.
But a little bit of character, a little bit of flair. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, it's like give a tool, take a tool in my driveway.
Yeah.
So I found 3 power drills in my driveway that are not mine and are not. Because when I find power tools in my driveway, I asked around, like, anybody, is this yours? And so I just threw it in a bucket in my garage. It's not a nice. It was just like something that like a gift from the Methy universe. But I did lose a power saw. Like I had like a circular saw. And I think I set it down in my driveway. I don't know where it went. So, give a tool, take a tool. If you leave something in the driveway, you might get a different tool back.
I don't have neighbors like that.
You're pretty rural.
Nor do I have people passing through. But
no.
You know what? Hey, if it's going to help them out in that situation and they felt that they at least want to leave you something in return, so be it. Finders keepers. I believe in that. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, maybe you'll be able to, make some money off these drills, or at least you're set now for all occasions.
No, yeah. I got a plug-in drill. It's perfect. But so I know that you were earlier in the year. You were saying that maybe last year you said you got chickens.
Yes.
How is that going?
I'll be honest.
Uh-oh.
No, they're still there.
Okay, great.
They're still there. And so I check in on them every morning, but that's as far as I go with them. Unfortunately, with being on the truck now, all my time is devoted to the truck. So I'll visit them right at first thing, between say 6:30, because the rooster is already getting everyone up by 5.
Yeah.
So that's my natural alarm clock. I don't use a phone. I just use rooster time. And
You're keeping him around.
In the past, we would just we would just be off with them, right?
Right. Yeah.
It wouldn't be something that we'd care to keep.
Yeah.
But over the years, living where we're located, there's a large pond, and so it attracts a lot of birds, but including predator birds.
Oh, okay.
So, for my understanding of rooster will sacrifice itself,
fall on its own sword, right? Yeah,
exactly. For its hens. And so since now it's not as often as someone's home to be able to, I guess you could say, protect them,
yeah,
their shepherd, we're allowing the rooster hanging out.
Okay.
We allow him to hang out.
At least
I guess
until it
you could say.
becomes a problem.
Well, he's an a-hole. I'm going to say that. We've all had our fair share. He likes to mark his territory.
Oh, fucking boy.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's a definition of a rooster. This thing is a T-Rex with wings. He'll get up on his claws and fly up 3-4 feet towards you.
Yeah.
And at this point, I think it's comical. The first time it happened, it scared the shit out of me because, dude, the flap, the wing
Okay,
flap,
so if I ever come out, I need to be ready to box a rooster.
that's exactly right. Bring your boxing gloves and eye protection because he goes for the eyes.
Oh
man.
man.
Yeah,
he's not even like posturing. He's going for the gusto.
No. Yeah, it's ruthless. I guess he's Mexican, so that makes sense. But with that being said, so in the mornings I have to let them out and I feed them. I check on on their water. And lately with this colder weather, they're just not putting out. They're not doing their job. We're not getting as many eggs, and so
I don't get any eggs until early February.
really okay.
Yeah, so like unless you supplement with light, chicken talk. Unless you supplement with light in the winter, when the days get shorter, they stop laying altogether, and then in early February, generally about February 1st or 2nd, they'll start laying again as the days get longer. I've only got one hen laying right now, so
Okay. See, we have 11 hens, and of the 11, I'd say only 3 or 4, are laying eggs, and if they are, we're only getting maybe 5 a day, maybe.
so give it a few days. So
They just started to.
my hen when they first start laying, they'll start laying every other day before they start laying almost every day usually.
All right. Well, I'm starting to see a little bit of blue consistently more in the sky, so I think the season's starting to change.
Oh yeah.
I really feel that here in the coming weeks we'll see something that's different that we need with positive weather because, quite frankly, I think these hens are tired of it as well.
Oh yeah.
But I will say, on the topic of food, there is absolutely no question, no doubt about it, that the flavor of a farm fresh egg
Oh yeah.
to a store bought egg, it's night and day doesn't justify it.
Oh, dude, it's so much better. And like letting them get some bugs and whatever else they're eating out in the field is great.
letting them live and be, so they're as free range as they could be. Our hens, we have a little yard for them to be able to run. So during the day they're out free, and that's one of the reasons why we have a rooster is
Yeah.
because they don't have they're not enclosed in a cage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine have their free run of the part of the property they're like in.
Yes. So I mean, as you mentioned, they're diving into the ground. They're turning up the soils just like we would when we're starting our season to plant our plants. But they do this year round, and so yeah, in my opinion, I keep the chickens around some of my plants during the season in my gardening, but when it comes to certain plants, I keep them away. It just seems like they're really attracted to, and the next day I'll go to see some of the leaves, say like on my habanero.
Oh yeah, they'll
and
strip
my
that.
peppers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll strip a pepper plant.
Crazy. So, but with that, circle back to the egg. So to any of the listeners that haven't ventured on trying farm fresh eggs, please just drive somewhere rural. Guaranteed you're going to run to someone that has a chicken stand. It might be a little sign on the road that says farm fresh eggs or just eggs. Pull right into the drive. If they have a sign up front, they're going to welcome you right in and try them. It will change your life. Years ago as a kid, I didn't really eat eggs. And my parents always persuaded me, try them. They're going to be good for you. They'll make you healthy. And so I never really appreciated them because we didn't have, hens growing up. So I was eating the eggs that my parents would buy, that were store bought. And just naturally as a kid, I just disliked them. And we would season them, pepper, salt, salsa. Nope, couldn't do it. And then probably about 10 years ago, my parents started, I guess you could say, buying hens. And over the years, what we'll do is with predators and so forth, we have to restock the coop.
Oh yeah.
And so, but with that being said, 10 years ago or so, I started trying to eat eggs again.
Yeah.
And it changed my life. I'll eat eggs just about every day of my life.
Oh yeah.
From this point on, and I will do everything possible not to ever eat store-bought eggs or even use it for any of my recipes, because it does. It makes a difference with the dough. It makes a difference with a lot of the things we make between the farm fresh and the store-bought. And that's something that if my customers are investing in me, I'm going to invest in them.
Oh yeah.
And I want local. I want something that is going to help them get through their day. And I really feel like that's a fundamental start of what we do on Tony's is
Oh, yeah.
our ingredients. Because without those, it's really hard to be able to have a quality pizza, quality pasta or sub.
Well, and I know you grow a lot of produce on your personal property too, don't you? Like this last year you grew habaneros, like you were saying. You grew jalapenos too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So over the years, I have grown various fruits, spices, and herbs. This past season, I had a very limited schedule, but I still wanted to be able to have something that I could at least spend the little free time I had on. And that's something growing up on this piece of property that I'm currently on right now was a place that I was raised on at my family's ranch. And I got to work a lot with my grandma as a kid in her garden. And that's something that I think has instilled in me since I was a kid, was seeing an 80-year-old lady, running circles around me, planting fresh strawberries or harvesting, fresh, cherries from the tree. And always having a positive attitude and always talking about, living off the land, but always contributing and giving back. And that's my way of giving back, is by supporting local farmers, but also giving back to the people that are coming by to the truck and eating quality food that isn't going to be something that could be harmful or not make them, I guess, go through their day in a way that I lost my train.
It's good high quality food, and something that I've often noticed, because I'll come out and I'll hang out and I'll be waiting for the pizza, and people talk, or they'll start talking to each other. And one thing people will often say, I'll see a lot of like, people coming through, but a lot of older people or a lot of people will say like, oh, I eat at other food trucks and they make me sick, but Tony never makes me sick. And like, so it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, the food's good. The food's really good. It's such a high quality. And especially compared to what you might find normally on a truck, it's very, very good. You've got a full Italian menu. Any day of the week, you've got two regular kinds of pasta, and then ravioli and lasagna most days.
That's exactly right. It seems like every day we're adding something new to the menu. When we first opened the truck, I really wanted to focus just on pizza. Pizza is my favorite thing to eat. I can have pizza just about every day.
Me too.
I find it that it's something that, everyone has their own way of creating it. And that's why I'll hear people's feedback about, positive feedback or negative feedback of other local establishments that do pizzas. And my typical response is everyone has their own style,
Oh yeah.
And maybe, some people might like it, some people may not. But in the way that I go about my pizza, I try to make it as universal as possible. And if I'm using high quality ingredients, I'm putting my love, my passion into the creation of this product. My wife, anyone else that's on this truck working, anyone else that's sourcing these products, they're putting their heart and soul into it. Then it's going to reflect in the food, and it's going to reflect in the enjoyment of that individual. And that's something that over the years, I've come to understand that food brings people together.
Oh yeah.
Everyone has their own opinion about politics. Everyone has their opinion about the local sports team. Everyone has their input about, what's going on in the news. But one thing that's common, no matter what their particular background is, they have to eat.
Oh yeah.
We all have to eat. It doesn't matter unless we're a robot, and then we would plug into a charger. And we're not there yet. I think it eventually will happen, but please, not in my lifetime. I want to be clocked out, bye-bye, laying face down.
You don't want to be bored.
No. I like simplicity at this point in my life. But yeah, I like I said, I want to be able to at least create an environment that I can connect with people or other people can connect with one another. Like as you mentioned, when you're at the truck, some may know your background, but not everyone does know that you're behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
You and Kendra are helping us out in on days that I hate to be in a pinch, but it's just how it works out.
Oh yeah.
We're out of mozzarella, we're out of mozzarella, and I don't want to lose that quality of service to my customers by asking my wife or myself to step off the truck to get a
Yeah.
supply. And so having you, come in on the fly is something that it. I know I've already touched on this at the beginning of our conversation, but yeah, we wouldn't be as far as we're at right now without that. And I honestly I value your time, and I know that you wouldn't just help. You would help when in a need, but you've helped me numerous amount of times where, like I said, you've got us out of a pinch, and that's what I want to be able to do for people as well when I'm in that position as well, and I want people to be able to count on me. And right now, the best thing I could do is offering the best quality food, and not only that, a environment for customers to be able to feel welcome. Um, you can go to restaurants, you go to coffee shops, you can go to other trucks, and the first couple seconds, just like when meeting someone, first impressions make a difference. And for me, I've always done my best to be able to create an environment that our customers feel welcome and they feel like they can call it a place like home. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm Italian, I'm Mexican, I'm first generation. I come from a very strong, passionate family, and so sometimes my emotions reflect on my body language, I guess you could say, and I don't mean to, but at the end of the day, I will always make sure that the food comes out the best. It might have taken a moment, or it might have had me have a little bit of attitude, um, and I guess Sarah will say it's meal and a show sometimes at Tony's because you know things are being tossed and
Or there's a wind coming through.
well, and that's yes, that's an uncontrolled environment on that truck. It's it could be 10 degrees outside, warmer than it is inside that truck. But the moment you open that window, oh man, it's a hurricane, and it's unfortunate because the wind that comes through the truck goes right on top of our Evan. It's a design flaw. This truck was a former 1988 Snap-on tool truck.
Right.
It was never a food truck. And in between the start of that history of the food truck, or excuse me, the start of the truck being a Snap-on to me owning it, it's had many lives.
Right.
It's had many personalities. We found, lead boxes that, in locations of the truck that would make no sense. We've found different types of hardware of everything from from Ford to Dodge manufactured parts, and it's a GMC that's in the engine bay. We've found what looked like to be a propane tank underneath the truck that was hollow, but then had no plumbing attached to it. And then if you unbolt it and detach the tank from underneath the truck itself, it had a enclosed box with nothing in it.
A weird smuggle truck.
Yes, and we don't have hard details or facts, but I do know this: when we got the truck, the gentleman said that he only had it for one run and one run only, and it's been parked ever since, and he no longer needs it, and it's taking space on his property, and he needs it gone. Didn't want to ask anymore. We knew that it would be something that it would be a project, but it'd be something that we could call ours, and that's something about Tony's that makes it really special. Is that particular truck we built by hand. My father and I took us almost 7 months in the winter. Started at the midsummer, built it throughout winter, and opened at the following spring. But we try to do it in record timing. We first projected about 10 to 11 months, but we were able to consolidate that time frame into about 5 to 6 months.
Oh yeah.
And then the last remaining weeks was just testing and tuning, and then going through licensing and so forth. And yeah, within that time frame, we were able to open. And March 27th will be our 2-year mark.
2 years. That's crazy.
Yes, yes. And not only that, it's neat to be able to know that that time frame of within a month or two of opening, you had stopped by our truck, and ever since then, you've been part of Tony's. So I mean, the history of Tony's is how old you are with the history of Tony's is something that, like I said, I want to be able to reflect back, say in the future, saying, hey, do you remember when, we were at Cutting Edge Solutions? And
I remember when you were at the fire station.
Scala days, yes. And that's the thing. That will date you. Most people that I talk about Cutting Edge because it's a known location. But yes, over there off of 11th and
right over there, it's right by the fire station. I know there's a fire station. You were parked right behind the fire station.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
middle of nowhere. But yeah, it was a place that a good family friend of ours that owns construction companies throughout the state and has various properties throughout the state had this piece of land that wasn't really being used for anything, and donated it to me.
Nice.
To be able to at least work out the kinks. And after a couple of weeks, we realized that the car count was very low and it was very limited, but it allowed me to get my jitters out, and over time, I'll still have those tendencies of feeling a bit nervous. The other day on Valentine's, midday, once we started getting our call-in orders and customers arriving for their packages, I started getting butterflies, and I just reflected at that time. I haven't really felt that way until, really since I first opened the truck again. That feeling of, almost like going back to school after spending 3 months on summer break doing, for me, working. So
right.
For me, it was like going back to school was, all right, I don't have to go back to work for the next 8 months. And so that's sort of that same jitters, that same feeling I had, as well as like when I used to play sports, like right before the first snap of a football game, or right before the sound of a gun from the start for the track and field in the events that I competed in. So I think that's something with cooking. I think I'll always have those jitters, and I'm afraid if I ever lose those jitters, then I think I'm gonna have to move on to something different. So, yeah, really, I think we're good, my man.
Yeah, we're at 40 minutes.
Dude, this was fun. This,
and we didn't even get to talk to everything, so I will have to have you come back sometime.
Yeah, no, and I hope you take snippets of this, and maybe not everything we talked about and stuff.
I'll edit it down. It'll probably edit down to anywhere from 38 minutes to about 40. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience before we let you go?
So, I want to say, please listen and support Uncle Diggs. He is someone that's committed to cannabis research in addition to education. Something I find very interesting on Uncle Diggs is in most of his segments he'll have a update on legislation or laws that are either being passed or in motion for cannabis support. It sometimes could be local, it could be sometimes nationwide. My father is a cannabis user and patient. In addition to that, a medical grower. And he's also who influenced me to start a food truck. So on our next segment, I want to be able to talk a little bit more about that.
We should. All right. See you next time.
That was fun.
Thank you for listening to the Bagseed Chronicles. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Peace out. Yeah. Groovy.